Oop. And you want to try and avoid that at all costs.
I love printing with resin printers because you can get some amazing looking pieces with lots of detail and without the layer lines of an FDM printer. I also hate resin printers because they're messier and they need a lot more consumables than FDM printing does. In this video, I'm going to show you the process from start to finish so you can see all of the materials and equipment you would need to successfully 3D print with resin in case you're thinking about getting a resin printer so that you know everything you need to get to be successful. Before I can get to printing, I need to take the file I'm going to be using, which is this model of a pawn, and I'm going to put it into Box, the free slicing software that most of us who have resin printers use. Slicing is the process of taking a model and cutting it up into layers in machine code called G-code that the printer can then take and make the parts of the printer do what they're supposed to do to print out your model. It makes more sense if I show you. All right, we're here in Box, which is the slicing software I'm using, and I'm using an older version. There's a much newer version, but I haven't upgraded because the settings I have in here have been working, and I've got my pawn imported here, which is what I'm going to 3D print. But actually, I'm going to do two of these because one, I'm going to print right on the build plate, which is something you shouldn't really be doing, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'll talk about that why in a second. So first, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to duplicate, and then I'm just going to auto arrange these in the center. So this one, we're going to leave it on the build plate. This one, we are going to put some supports on. So ideally, we want to put this at a bit of an angle. I usually find that like 17 to 20% works for me. There are lots of videos out on YouTube about the best way to do this. I am just using the methods that work for me. So I'm going to go into supports now. Unlike an FDM print, a resin print, you have to have supports because of the way it works. And the nice thing is with the slicing software here, you can see these areas of red and they give you an indication of overhangs, and they give you these nice little dots to let you know where supports could best be applied. There's a little bit of art to this. As you get more experience, you'll get better at figuring out where you probably do and don't need supports. I'm going to just follow the dots here and use a little bit of intuition to place. So I'm going to start with some heavy supports on the bottom. And you'll see also that as the support style changes, the locations you need to print need to place them change. So I'm just going to come in here and start banging these out. And I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me place all these. And I have mine set so it prints off of a little raft here, and you can see it's got a nice bevel here so that it's easier to get off of the bed. So this is super important, something I highly recommend that you set in your settings. And now then we're going to go ahead and slice, and I've got all my settings set already. I've got the resin timings and all those, and this video is, I'm not talking about that. Those are completely separate. Lots of other YouTube videos that will walk you through how to set up your printer for the best prints. I'm focused more on the whole process so you can see what's involved. So I'm going to slice this, and you will see that the print time is like 6 hours and 40 minutes because I have an older printer, which is a lot slower. So this is what the screen will look like at this particular layer of the print. And this is kind of cool. This just gives you an idea of how the printing process works. So basically, this mask will change for each layer to whatever shape this is. So the white area is where the light will show through, and the UV light will turn on and expose through this area, exposing a layer of resin in this area, and then that will get stuck to the model. Save it to the USB drive, and we are off to the printer. Now that the file is done, we can put it on the USB drive, but before we can print it, we need to do a couple things. One is I want to level the bed because I haven't used the printer in quite a while and don't remember the state of affairs. 2, we're going to give it a general look over to make sure I don't see any glaring issues. 3, we're going to put resin in the vat, and then we can print. This is my Elegoo Mars printer. This is an original Elegoo Mars, and there are shinier and bigger and faster printers out there now, but I don't have the money to buy new printers every time they come out, so I'm still using this one. This one's been working fine for me. So we've got a UV blocking cover because the resin reacts to UV, so obviously we want to keep that out. Inside, we've got a build plate, which unlike an FDM printer, hangs upside down, your resin vat, and then you've got your Z-axis back here. The first thing I want to do is I want to level my bed here because it's a little loose. And I'm going to show you the method I use because the instruction said to remove the vat, lay it on a sheet of paper, and then do the bed leveling procedure with the sheet of paper. However, I have found that if I use the vat with no resin in it, that makes a huge difference. And I very rarely get failures using that method. All right, so the process is this. I've already loosened the plate, so that's good to go. Next, I need to put the plate down flat. So if I go to manual and then hit this button, it's going to lower it all the way down. Okay, so it's in a down position. I'm going to come in. I'm also going to look down at the screen here. Okay, so we can see the build plate is in there and you can see the screen. We just want to make sure that the build plate is lined up with the screen as well, because if it's way off, then you're going to have some issues. Once I've got it where I want it, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tighten the locking screws here, because the last thing we want is for this to move during the print, because if it moves during the print, you're going to get a failed print. Let me go ahead and let's raise this back up. Before we get to printing, we're going to need some resin, but before we get to that, what I want to do is I'm going to take off the vat here. It's completely empty, and this one has been loved very much. You can see it's already got some use on it. And I want to point out, this is what we call the FEP film. Basically what this does is it allows the light to shine through and cure the resin, and the resin will stick to this a little bit, but it's a release film. So once the bed pulls up hard enough, it will detach that layer from the FEP and it will stay stuck to the model and not the FEP. In theory, sometimes it gets stuck and you have to replace your FEP. These are a consumable. These FEP films, you have to replace them every so often. There's a lot of consumables on here that you have to replace. So FEP is a replacement. The screen also is a replacement. This only has several hundred hours of use on it before it has to be replaced. Resin printers can be a bit of a money pit. Resin vat back in, and it's got a little bit of a groove that it sits in so I can feel it snug. Tighten down the screws, make sure that's locked in, and we're basically set. I'm just using some Anycubic clear resin. First thing we need to do is shake this up well, because that makes the resin angry, and everybody knows that angry resin works better than docile, calm resin. And then usually what I would do is pour this directly into the vat. However, I want to put a little bit of dye in it. This is an alcohol ink. I'm going to use this as my dye, and I've never tried this before, so this may end poorly. I want to try and get as close as possible to the amount of resin I need so that I don't waste resin with blue in it, because I might want to use different colors or just the clear later. Based on the slicing, I know about how much resin I need, so I'm going to just put it in a cup here, mix the dye in, and then pour it into said resin vat. Got my resin mixed up. It's supposed to be blue, but I grabbed the wrong one. Grabbed cerulean blue, so it's a little more greeny blue, but that's okay. It's fine. So I want to go ahead and put the lid on so that the UV resin is not being exposed to any light anymore. Got the file on the flash drive, and an annoying feature of this printer is the USB port is on the back. So instead of trying to rotate the printer, I bought this little 3-foot USB extension cable, and I can just plug right into that. And then we just go to print, choose my print, and hit go. And now off it will go. So as you can see, the build plate's lowering down into the resin. It's going to go down. It's going to blast it with some UV, and I'm going to put the cover back on. We're going to let that go for, what does it say, 6.5 hours. I'll grab a little bit of footage when it's up higher so you can actually see it. Okay, so the print is done. Now we're going to let it hang over the vat of resin so any excess can drip off. Before we can move on, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this bracket, going to loosen the knob here. And the entire time I'm going to try and hold it over the resin tank. There's still resin on here. So what we're basically doing is adding this bracket, let it tip, let all the excess drain off for quite a while. Maybe give it like 30 minutes to an hour. Maybe 30 minutes is enough today because it's pretty warm out here. So the liquid's pretty thin. We'll come back and we'll talk about how we post-process these, because this isn't done. Like, I can't just pull these off and it's good like an FDM printer. And now that the resin has had time to drip off, we can remove our prints from the build plate, which is a fun experience in and of itself. It's not really fun. So I need to get these two off the build plate. This one's going to be a little bit easier because I'll show you a trick for this one. Since I have the supports on it, it's going to make it easier. This one is going to be tricky because it's directly on the build plate. And the reason I did that is I'll have less to clean up on this one. On this one, with all these supports, there's probably going to be a little bit of damage to the model that I have to clean up and fix, whereas this one should be good to go. So I'm going to show you a trick, the first one. So the one with supports, what I do is I take a pair of side snips or whatever you want to call these things. You can just get it up underneath of the supports. And if you just kind of snip it, watch out for flying debris, don't let it get in your eye. It'll start to release from the build plate. So you can sort of see the color of the base change as I slowly, and sometimes when you do this, it'll pop right off. Oop. And you want to try and avoid that at all costs. So first one with the supports is off. There's actually a bubble here, which means that there's resin trapped in the void, which is the reason that we print stuff on an angle, to try and make sure we don't get that happening. But eye is not smart sometimes. So here we go. See how bad this is going to be. Hey, that was nowhere near as bad as I expected, but there's a bunch of resin now.
which is okay. That's why I'm using the silicone mat, because it'll clean up nicely.
And unlike an FDM printer, the prints are not done once the printer is done. Now, FDM printer, you can pop yours right off the plate, and maybe there's a little bit of cleanup you need to do or remove some supports. But for resin printing, we've got 2 more steps. We have to clean out the excess resin off of the prints, and 2, then we have to post-cure it because all the resin isn't fully cured yet. There are 2 important parts to removing supports on a print. The first one is your actual support settings, and that takes place in the slicing, which we talked about earlier. And the second one is how you remove them post-print. My preferred method is I take some warm water and I'm gonna rinse this in the warm water, and then I'm gonna let that soak for just a second. Now, the water will not remove the resin really. Some's gonna come off, but we need to solve it, and that's the next step. But first, we put this in the warm water. That just helps soften it just a little bit. And then if all's gone well, we can just very easily just sort of push and pull. There we go. That'll come right off. And there's a little bit of leftover, not too much. The bottom's a little rough. So I have an Anycubic wash and cure. This has a bucket and a basket. So this is the basket. You could put the parts in this, and then there's a bucket that would go in here that you put your solvents in. The most common solvent that people use is isopropyl alcohol. However, I have found another method that I like to use. It's not cheaper, but I feel like I get a better result with it, and that is using acetone. Now, do not put acetone in your wash and cure. No. It's a very specific method that I use, and I'll show you what I do. And you have to be very careful with this because acetone will eat your prints very quickly. So what I do is I get my bowl and I lay my pieces down in it, and I will take some acetone and I will put enough in, mostly cover them, and I will take and I will agitate these for about 20 seconds. And we'll take them out, rinse them in water. I've got my water from earlier that I'm just reusing over here. Take them out, and we're gonna do 1 more rinse in the acetone for about 20 more seconds. And usually I do these one at a time. I don't know why today I was like, let's do these at the same time. And then back in the water. Typically I like to wear a respirator, but since I'm recording, I've actually got the door open, so got some ventilation in here, so I'm not just straight breathing the acetone because it's not great on the lungs. And also, be careful because the acetone actually eats through the nitrile gloves. So if you're doing a bunch of these, don't be surprised if you look down and your glove has split open on several of your fingers. We've got the excess resin off of them, and you can see they've sort of got a dull finish to them now, or more satin finish, I should say. The excess resin that sits on it fills in all the pores, and it makes it look much more clear than it is. Now, we're gonna take these and cure them in the wash and cure, except I'm going to use water curing. Now, if you're using water washable resin, don't do this, but I'm not using water washable resin, so these are perfectly safe to put into a little bowl of water here. I've had very good success using water curing, so that's what we're gonna do. It is set to cure, and then we just hit start and let it go. I have to say the transparent resin looks really cool while it's curing. All done. All right, so at this point they're safe to touch. We can just reach right in and pull these out. And there we go. Our 2 pieces are done. So in this one, you might be able to just make out some of the damage here from the supports. And part of this might be my fault because I overcooked it a little bit. That will have to be cleaned up. And then this one was the one that was just stuck to the base. It's in really good shape, so all I have to do is polish this one. And this is one of my big problems with resin printing, is there's just so much waste from all the paper towels and the cup. Okay, that one I didn't necessarily need this time, but gloves, the paper towels, it just generates a lot more waste than FDM printing does. And our prints are done. We have our good print and our maladjusted print because the support structures were removed. So Curtis, why did you print a single pawn from a chess set? And I'm glad you asked. And even if you didn't ask, I'm gonna tell you. I 3D printed this because it is the start of a project to resin cast an entire chess set, which is also part of a bigger project to make a chess board with storage to put the pieces in. So this is the positive that I'm going to use to make a silicone mold to cast them in resin. And in the next video, we're gonna talk about polishing these up so that they are nice and shiny, similar to this, which is this is gonna look way cooler polished than this is because it'll be transparent. And then we're gonna cast a mold for it, and make some resin pieces. Be sure to keep an eye out for the silicone mold making video. That'll be down here if it's out. And if you haven't seen my other video on 3D printing about using FDM printers and some of the gotchas on that, you can check that one out up here. Thanks for watching.